When you think of Denmark, what comes to mind? No doubt you think of Great Danes, like the philosopher Søren Kierkegaard, or the great physicist Niels Bohr. Maybe pianist Victor Borge, who called himself the Great Dane. You might love Danish pastry, fly SAS, or long to see the Little Mermaid. For me, Denmark brings thoughts of the Little Mermaid's fairy tale creator, Hans Christian Andersen. That's because when my twin brother Lawrence and I were 12, our dad and our Aunt Mildred took us to see Danny Kaye in the movie musical Hans Christian Andersen.
Wonderful, wonderful Copenhagen, friendly old girl of a town. 'Neath her tavern light, on this merry night, let us clink and drink one down. To wonderful, wonderful Copenhagen, saw the old queen of the sea. Once I sailed away, but I'm home today, singing Copenhagen, wonderful, wonderful Copenhagen for me.
As a law student, I putt-putted around Denmark one summer on a Vespa, drinking Carlsberg beer and visiting Helsingør Castle, home of Prince Hamlet. Recently, I felt it was time to return to Denmark, so my wife Irma and I flew from Boston to Copenhagen via Munich. From Kastrup Airport, it's a crowded $6, 35-minute train ride into town. And the memories instantly came back. What a town. First, you've got to watch out for all the bikes or the Danes will run you down. Next impressive sight for a guy, all the fetching blonde Danish women. Denmark is rated the happiest country in the world, and even on an ordinary Wednesday afternoon in King's Garden Park, that seems true. Maybe it's because Copenhagen has Tivoli, established back in 1843 as the world's first amusement park. It's a festive place of concerts, theatrical performances, and rides. Start your tour in Rådhuspladsen, Town Hall Square. Here there's a gilt statue of Bishop Absalon, who founded Copenhagen in 1167. The chimes of the 34-story high Town Hall Tower can be heard a long way. Irma, but not my camera, caught a glimpse here of Margrethe, Queen of Denmark since 1972. The Queen lost her 83-year-old husband, Prince Henrik, in February 2018, but she was serene and gracious at his funeral. At the town hall when we were there, the Queen had attended a formal diplomatic reception with full medals and fancy gowns on display. In the square, the lure players, who are said to strike up a tune when a virgin passes by. Funny, they never actually play anything. And in a far corner, the beloved Hans Christian Andersen, 19th century writer who thought up The Ugly Duckling and so many other tales. Off the square, the start of the mile-long Strøget, Copenhagen's main strolling and shopping promenade. It's hard to find bargain prices in prosperous Copenhagen, but that doesn't stop the parade of shoppers. For great people watching, have a Carlsberg at a sidewalk cafe and catch the action. You will observe that Copenhagen hosts thousands of Syrian and other Muslim refugees. 2 terror attacks and rising social tensions over the newcomers have disturbed Denmark's liberal, high-tax, high-benefits society. Though it was May, an international ice hockey tournament was drawing fans from other countries, like these guys from Sweden and from Russia. Danes themselves can be cheerfully rude fans, posting jibes like this one in Spanish about the Real Madrid football team. Walk on and you will see the landmark St. Nicholas Church and some of the other old green copper spires that characterize this Baltic capital of 2 million people. One steeple crowns Borgen, the Christiansborg Palace site of Denmark's parliament. Copenhagen has been thinking big for centuries. In 1642, the king commissioned the Round Tower. Instead of the usual spiral staircase, the tower has a winding footpath to the top. A tourist named Peter the Great of Russia rode his horse up this path in 1716. From the roof, a nice view of all those copper steeples. Of course, there's plenty of Danish modern, like the 2005 Opera House designed by Danish architect Henning Larsen, or an office building shaped like binoculars. In graceful King's Garden Park, more evidence of royalty, though Denmark's monarchs have no political power these days. Rosenborg Slot was the royal residence from 1634 to 1710. Now the castle is a museum holding Denmark's crown jewels. At Amalienborg, a complex of 4 Rococo 18th century palaces, the Queen today lives in the Christian IX Palace. Her view includes Frederick V, an 18th century king. The guards are friendly, but don't go beyond the ropes or you'll get a stern warning. On to Kongens Nytorv, King's New Square, and beyond to the wildly popular Nyhavn. Dredged out in 1871 to enlarge the harbor, this one-time den of sailor bars and brothels is now a tourist favorite for charm, restaurants, and hip hotels. Hans Christian Andersen used to live right here. That's when the rents were cheap. At the harbor where the Baltic cruisers dock and sunbathers relax, it's a rather long walk or a taxi ride to see the #1 tourist attraction. Yes, the Little Mermaid. The wistful life-size sculpture is so accessible that she has been vandalized and even stolen, but she's easily replaceable using her original 1913 mold. For Irma, the visit was capped by a gourmet food store named Irma. Back at the Central Rail Station on a whim, we took a short train ride to see a whole other Baltic country, Sweden. Malmo is a $27 35-minute trip across Öresund, the narrow strait which opens out into the Baltic Sea. The bridge, which opened in 2000, has a view of Malmo's turning torso, a startling high-rise tower a few miles from downtown. Quiet Malmo is a seaport, with some gloomy old structures and modern ones too. In a park are a windmill, lilacs, and a castle serving as the art museum. Sweden too now has a big Muslim minority, and they're enjoying life in Malmo. Like Copenhagen, the city is well worth a visit.
I'm Hans Christian Andersen, I've many a tale to tell, and though I'm a cobbler, I'd say I tell them rather well. I'll mend your shoes and I'll fix your boots when I have a moment free, when I'm not otherwise occupied as a purple duck or a mountainside or a 3:15. I'm Hans Christian Andersen, that's me.